Speaking of disagreeing with my own government, a lot of people always ask me, especially in the last coming weeks and months since the ceasefire. There's been a ceasefire in Gaza, right? And they keep asking me, why did you stop talking about Palestine? Why did you stop talking about Palestine? One, they don't watch everything I say because I speak about the Palestinian issue all the time. Two, they don't read every tweet I post because I talk about the Palestinian issue all the time. Three, they don't follow my posts on Tate Pledge because I help Palestinians financially all the time. I have started tweeting about it less since the ceasefire because, yes, indeed, there is a ceasefire. And then I get questions such as this. And I want to outlay this once and for all, properly on my podcast so I can take the video and post it to everyone who gives me this kind of answer. Let's say I like an American politician. Let's say I like J.D. Vance, for example, which I do. No politician is going to agree with you or me 100% of the time. The idea is to find politicians who overwhelmingly please us on most issues so that overwhelmingly we could vote for them in power and get most of what we want. And they'll say, yeah, but J.D. Vance is a huge supporter of Israel. And Tristan, you're not a supporter of Israel. You're a supporter of Palestine. I'll say, yes, I know. So how can you endorse J.D. Vance? Okay, they'll say the same things about perhaps Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth. They'll say this about loads of politicians who I really like as American politicians. They're really great people. And my answer to that is very simple. If I were to say, here is a cigar, and here is a glass of piss, Tristan, and I want you to enjoy one of them. And I take the cigar, and they say, that's not your favorite brand of cigar. That's not a H. Upmann Magnum 54. Why are you smoking that cigar? That cigar isn't perfect. That cigar is only 8 out of 10. It's not right in every way. That cigar is actually too big. That's not the usual kind of cigars you smoke. If you could pick any cigar that was absolutely perfect, it wouldn't be this one. There is a ceasefire in Gaza now. I had a choice as an American citizen. When I saw Donald Trump shake the hand of, what's his name? The Dagestani fighter, the retired one. Khabib. And Khabib said, look, you have to stop the killing in Palestine. I'm a Muslim. You have to stop the killing in Palestine. And Trump said, you know what? I'm going to stop the killing in Palestine. His personal views are out of the side of the issue of I'm going to stop people dying, which is always Trump's number one perspective. And I said this before he was elected as well. And now we have a ceasefire. If you think Kamala Harris would have done anything for the people of Palestine, you are wrong. What I did as an American voter is I made what I thought was the best choice on all the issues that I thought about, including Israel-Palestine, and it turns out I made the right choice, and I was correct, because now there is a ceasefire. I am sick to death of saying, well, I like this politician. I like this guy. I like Elon. I like Vivek. I like Kash Patel. And people come up with little tiny issues, 1-2% issues of things that I may disagree with. Oh, well, he said this once. He did that once. You know who that reminds me of? Tristan and Andrew Tate. I like the Tate brothers. Oh, they're great. They're motivational. They used to run a webcam studio. It's nitpicking. And because people do it to me, I won't let you do it to politicians I support. The American administration that is currently in place has done so much more for America and thus the world in just the past 2 weeks than the entire Biden-Obama administration did in its 12 years in power. So shut the f*** up about tiny issues about politicians that you do not like. I can't get behind you then because you have a choice between the cigar and the glass of piss. And thank God we tossed that glass of Kamala Harris and whatever administration she would have chosen out the window, and we're all smoking lovely cigars instead. God bless Donald Trump. God bless J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, the entire administration and everything they're trying to do because they're doing a fucking fantastic job. And as an American and a citizen of the world, I'm very, very pleased that they got in power. Now, the reason I've been going through these tweets is because Marco Rubio, who we know is he Secretary of State now, yeah? He is. Marco Rubio, who we know is now the Secretary of State, the guy who understands all of the issues in the world very, very well, said this. And it's one line. And it went over most people's heads, side to side. But I've been protesting this war since the very beginning. And I've understand the actual causes for the war. So I haven't been protesting it like an idiot. Like, oh, we need to stop Russia. We need to keep fighting. I've been protesting it from an intelligent perspective, as in I know why the war started and I know why the war needs to end. Marco Rubio, the guy who's now in charge of foreign relations in the United States, who understands everything that's going on in the world, said one small sentence, and no one picked up on it. It went over everyone's heads. Hear me out. Remember every tweet I posted. Remember all of the responses. Remember all the Slava Ukraines. Find the people now with the Ukrainian flag in their bio. We must fight Russia. We must fight Russia. It's good. We're saving the world. Marco Rubio said, it was dishonest to claim that Kiev was capable of ever defeating Russia on the battlefield. Okay? Now, the reason that sentence is so pertinent and so important is because if the Americans at the time, who knew what Marco Rubio knows, knew that it was never a possibility to ever defeat the Russians on the battlefield, why the f*** are 100,000 Ukrainian families now missing their son, dad, cousin, uncle, brother? Why? If they could never have defeated Russia on the battlefield, maybe dialogue, maybe concessions, maybe not dragging Ukraine into NATO, maybe giving Putin a little bit of what he wants and letting Europe and the West have a little bit of they want, maybe some compromise could have been the solution to this, because everyone called for war. But war was obviously, from the beginning, not the answer, because the Americans knew. The Secretary of State in the last administration knew it was dishonest to say that Ukraine could have ever defeated the Russians on the battlefield. So why the f*** has this all happened now? Why has this all happened? I know people who've died in that war. Why are they all dead? I know people who've lost their brother and their uncle in that war. Why are they all dead? There are Ukrainians here living in Bucharest who I support various charities, etc. Families come here with their kids. Their dad goes off to fight. Now they're fucking orphans. Why did that happen? If it was dishonest to believe that Ukraine could have ever defeated the Russians on the battlefield, what was it for? Well, it was dishonest when they said we need more money and more guns. It was dishonest when they said we repelled the Russians from Kiev. No, the Russians attacked Kiev in a flash attack and then backed off, hoping to force negotiations. It was dishonest when the insignificant village of Kherson, which was taken by the Russians and no one mentioned, was taken back by the Ukrainians. And for 2 weeks in the news, big Ukrainian victory, the strategic location of Kherson, a shithole pile of rubble that used to be a small town with no electricity, has been taken back. And we kept hearing about these Ukrainian victories in the news again and again. And your governments were sending billions and billions of your tax dollars to this country for the men to pick up brand new shiny guns and the politicians to buy brand new shiny mansions and the military equipment and tanks and planes just for every single person who ever went to face the Russian war machine to die. There are posts 2 years old of brave Ukrainian men, and I'm taking nothing away from them, all marching in formation, singing their Ukrainian national anthem towards the front lines. Watch those videos today. Every one of them is dead. They're all dead. Look at the videos and the photos of the graveyard. If Marco Rubio knows it was dishonest to say that Kiev could have ever defeated the Russians on the battlefield, then hundreds of thousands of lives, millions of lives have been lost for nothing, because the previous administration knew this as well. I'm going to talk to you about the problem I had with him personally. Here's the problem I had with him. I'm a half-black man. And I actually very much support the rights of countries. The people who built and established a nation, so the Irish, for example, to have their country as an Irish country. And I support their right, and I'm a quarter Irish. The problem is, even as a man who is actually a quarter Irish, many good Irish people would completely agree with me that people of Irish descent should live there in large numbers and it shouldn't be filled with foreigners. But you do have a lot of hardliners, hardline racists, genuine racists. You're not allowed in Ireland. Now, you're racist. I get it. Cool. I'm quarter Irish, but yeah, I'm too much of a for you. The problem with Salwa and Momika is criticizing Islam is perfectly acceptable. Even Muslims don't want to shoot you or kill you for criticizing Islam. Lots of smart, prominent intellectuals, Christians, atheists, imams get together and they debate their ideas. And if you subscribe to one religion, you by default don't believe in another. So if a Christian speaks, he'll say, I do not believe in the Quran and I do not believe in Islam because I'm a Christian. And that's perfectly fine. People are allowed to have civil discourse. And Muslims will equally say, I don't believe in the Bible because the Bible's been corrupted. I believe in the Quran. Fine. When you want to appeal to extremists, you have to be somebody who the extremists will accept. Burning Qurans is for the hardline racist extremists to get your point across. Am I correct? That's not a civil way of doing things. It's very much the hardline, super racist, I'm going to make a shit show as big as I can to get your point across. And the problem with Salwan Mamika is he was brown. I don't think he understands. As a half-black man who's spoken to all sorts of various people, let me tell you exactly what happened. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Swedish men who would never be brave enough to do what he did or have the balls to do what he did are sitting in rooms together saying, yeah, we need Sweden back. Everyone should be Swedish. Fine, that's your view. And this guy, Salwan Mamika, this brown Iraqi man, goes out and burns the Muslim Quran and waves it around. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swedes are sitting there like, they were burning their Quran in public. This is great, this is great, this is great. Let's imagine him burning the Quran pissed off so many Muslims, because the Swedish government let him, that every Muslim left Sweden. Let's pretend this happened. Let's pretend Salwan Momika got exactly what he wanted, and every Muslim left Sweden after he burnt the Quran. Those same blonde-haired, blue-eyed men would be walking around a week later, and they'd be like, oh, look, it's a brown guy from Iraq. What the f*** are you doing here? Let's kick him out. He was never going to be in their club. He was never going to be one of them. He's a brown man from the Middle East. And most nationalists, a lot of nationalists, like myself, for example, as a British, I'm half British, as a man who believes in British nationalism, I don't care who's Muslim or Christian. If you're from the Middle East and you came over on a boat and you came in illegally and you didn't follow the rules of immigration, I want you to get the fuck out. I don't care if you are Salwan Mamika or a Muslim guy. If you came in illegally and you came in via boat or you claimed asylum when you shouldn't have, you should get out of the country. I'm anti-unchecked immigration. I don't care what religion you are, and most sensible people don't. So Salwan Mamika was quite literally barking up the wrong tree. He was looking for approval from people who are never going to like him. You know, I don't like to make fun of the dead, but you know who it reminds me of? Have you ever seen those Dave Chappelle clips where he's a blind black man who's racist and is a part of the KKK? Yeah, we need to get rid of them. And he doesn't know he's black. I looked at what Salwan Mamika was doing. I'm like, okay, cool. Yes, I get it. You're an Assyrian Christian. You have problems with the current Iraqi regime, etc. But you're from Iraq. Most people in Iraq today are Muslims. You're on your own culture and your own people. Yes, I know there's a difference between the various ethnic groups in Iraq before everyone attacks me. But that's your nation, and you're that nation and that culture to appease a bunch of Swedes who don't fucking like you in the first place. They don't like you. So yeah, I think burning the Quran aside, his actions were very stupid because he was trying to appease people who never would have liked him in the first place. If the nationalist super racists, few percent in every country, got their way, I wouldn't be allowed in England. I wouldn't be allowed in America if the super racists get their way. They want a white ethno-state. I was told online by someone I tried to talk with that I should go back to Africa. No idea. And the Swedes would want his ass out as well. He's an asylum seeker from Iraq. So I don't know what universe he thought he was going to appease these people and become one of their club for. While he's burning the Quran. It's like the kid in school who eats worms and everyone tells him he's a hero. Oh, you're so cool, you're eating worms. And everyone just laughs at him behind his back. That's what he's doing. Oh, wow, Salwan, yeah, we're anti-Islam. You're burning the Quran. Yeah, good for you, bro. And then like, brown guy, look, he's burning his own country's book. It was never going to fly. So I guess, may God have mercy on his soul, but And I had a question, a tweet that I'm actually going to read out in its entirety because I've mentioned nationalism, I've mentioned South Africa, I've mentioned ethno-states, and this was a tweet that I'd like to explain because people seem so stupid they can't understand it. You always argue that England should remain an Anglo-Saxon nation. But when you talk about South Africa preserving its heritage and being a black country, it's a problem. I'd like to know whether you're a hypocrite or if you actually have a good reason. Interesting question. Well, my friend, why do I not think white Americans need to leave America? They're Europeans, aren't they? Shouldn't America belong to the red man? Or black Americans, because they were brought over forcibly as slaves, but they've been there for hundreds of years. And it's not about time. It's nothing to do with time limits, by the way. But why do I not think that white Americans should go back to Europe and give it back to the red man? Because America was built by the white European and the black slave. They built the country. They got there. The country was in the Stone Age. The people had only recently discovered riding horses because horses were brought over to South America by the Spanish. And they killed the native inhabitants. Yes, sure. That's wrong. You know, people in the past did all sorts of crazy shit. But they built cities and roads and railways and industry and language and a constitution. And they created the country of the United States. You can't take the white and black people who built the country. The white people who made all the laws and stuff, I understand, but the black people did help build the country involuntarily. You can't kick them out of the country and put a bunch of red people in charge of it because it's a white man's nation and it's a white man's society because that's who it was built by. So when I say about England remaining an Anglo-Saxon nation, England was built over a very long period of time. I mean, the Romans helped, the Norse invaded, all sorts of different people came to England. But I don't think everyone with Norse ancestry needs kicking out or anyone with Roman ancestry needs kicking out. Because in the various time periods that these people came to the United Kingdom, the Normans, they built the entire country. They signed the Magna Carta. They put common law into action, the systems of judges, the English language. They created the country of England. So I don't think people from Somalia or Syria or Bangladesh can just move into England and move into their space because it's the country they created. Which brings me to South Africa. And it might offend you. And I don't care if it does, because I'm a half-black man myself. I do not care if it offends you. But white people got to South Africa. And there were people already living there, the Khoisan, who are not the black people, by the way, who live there today. Khoisan people still exist, but a bunch of other black people moved in after the white people. Long story short, the modern nation of South Africa was built by white European settlers. The roads, the sewers, they brought the written word with them. Laws, courts, police systems. So, unfortunately, what you have in South Africa, now that thank God the apartheid regime has ended. I think there should have been a different solution, but the apartheid regime was not good. It was not a good thing at all. But now that that's ended, you have black African people essentially wearing white people's clothes. They're the police, they're the judges, they're sitting in the Houses of Parliament. This was all built by white people. And white people certainly do have a claim over South Africa because South Africa would not have a bank, would not have a unified currency, would not have any of these things if white people had not shown up. So, yeah, the Afrikaners and the Boer people are not people who just showed up at an already developed nation. Like some people from Bangladesh or Syria might move into England today and just, oh, look, there's skyscrapers in a city and laws and this. I'm just going to move in. Boom, I'm here now. No, they arrived to barren plains and built the country out of the sand. And now they're being displaced on land in which they built a nation on. So, yeah, they certainly do have a claim. They have their own language. And to say that we need an ethnically pure South Africa, it's a little too late for that. Because if South Africa had been ethnically pure, the tribes that inhabited South Africa were not even out of the Stone Age, and they would have literally nothing. They wouldn't even have the wheel or the written word. So, no, it's too late for that. White people have established the nation, and they deserve some claim over it and how it's run. Or they deserve their own nation, maybe a two-party state. I don't know. And this isn't about white or black. It's about Boer and Afrikaner against other tribes. Skin color is such a very hard divide, though. But these people are literally culturally extremely different to the black people who live in South Africa. So a solution needs to happen there. I'm not involved in South African politics at all. I will probably never go to South Africa, but I do pray for all of you, and I pray for everybody in South Africa, because I hate to see what's going on. The reason why Bryce Mitchell should have doubled down, in my opinion, and the reason why the UFC and politicians and fight fans should have supported him in doubling down is as follows. Now, this is going to, I know, everyone's waiting. Everyone's waiting now, tense. Why should he have doubled down? Why should he have doubled down? I'll tell you why Bryce Mitchell should have doubled down. People like Khabib are arguably some of the best fighters that there ever were. Fedor Emelianenko, one of the best fighters. Because controversy, because Fedor and Khabib are very quiet. They're focused on fighting. They're very, Khabib's a very religious man. They focused on fighting. They proved their point. And now they're retired. But the biggest stars in fighting are the people like John Jones, people like Conor McGregor, the people like Floyd Mayweather even. Ran his mouth, talked a bunch of shit. And the reason characters make fighting a better sport is because people love to love them and people love to hate them. So I grew up watching WWF, not WWE. I don't care if you're young and you think, WWE, is he talking about WWE? No, I'm talking about WWF. I'm talking about the Iron Sheik. Remember the Iron Sheik? America's enemies were all Middle Easterners at the time. And they'd have their American hero, Hulk Hogan, in his American flag shorts. Yeah. And the Iron Sheik would come out. Thick mustache. Towel head, with his Iranian clubs. And he'd beat Hulk Hogan up and America would win in the end. People loved the Iron Sheik because he was a terrorist, evil man, right? The characters are what made WWF great. Andre the Giant, Stone Cold Steve Austin, drinking his beer all the time and kicking people and smashing women over the head with a chair. It was wonderful because you had characters you loved to love and characters you loved to... Hey, they even had that English guy, Sir William Regal. He used to come out dressed like me, slick back hair, fancy suits. Oh, I'm going to whip all of you, you American, you bloody ungrateful colonists. Boo, boo, we hate you, we hate you. And he was like the English guy, right? Now, obviously, these people were all actors. So, I'm not going to... I think if we split the universe today and made everything run exactly the same in both universes, but the only difference is that Bryce Mitchell, who's a super talent, by the way, and I like him very much, kept talking good about Hitler. And another one where he stopped talking good about Hitler. I think the fights would be more entertaining. I think the crowds would sell out bigger. And I think Bryce Mitchell would make a lot more money over his career. Wear an SS uniform, come out, do the salute. I'm not saying do that, but if somebody were that way inclined and really loved the Nazis and was fighting on a free speech show like UFC, how big would the main event be when he came across an Israeli fighter? How huge would the main event be? I know it's easy to say, just double down, just do this. I understand all the societal pressures. I've been asked to back off on a bunch of my opinions. I have less to lose because I'm not tied into one particular company. I get it. And it's a bit of a rant and a bit of wishful thinking, but I just kind of wish Bryce Mitchell would just double down, He'd be one of the biggest stars in the show. Hated, but still a massive star. Conor was hated by a bunch of people who weren't Irish. They all hated Conor running his mouth. Black people hated him because he called Floyd Mayweather boy, which is a racist term in American, but he didn't fucking know. He's not a racist, obviously. I love the guy. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on this, but Dana White is the man. Thank you for standing on free speech, and thank you for not canceling Bryce Mitchell. He's only 30. He's only 30, and I wish him a very fruitful and a very long mixed martial arts career. I love watching him, and the best of luck. But doubling down would have made the shows pretty exciting. I understand the risks in your personal life, Mr. Mitchell. I understand that maybe you couldn't have done that. Maybe you read something else and changed your mind. Completely fair, completely fine. Keep doing what you're doing.